The last stand, the beginning of the end, Captain Elena. Vasquez gripped the command chair as another plasma blast rocked the UES Eternal Vigil. The experimental warship's hull groaned under the assault, but it held firm. Through the bridges reinforced windows, she could see the orange glow of enemy fire cutting through the darkness of the Titan Nebula. Hull integrity at 60%, reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander James Park. His voice remained steady despite the sweat beading on his forehead. The Korthic dreadnoughts are closing in on our position. Elena watched the holographic display showing their desperate situation. 17 Korthic warships surrounded her vessel, each one twice the size of the Eternal Vigil. The alien ships looked like massive spiders made of dark metal, their weapon ports glowing with deadly energy. For 3 years, these creatures had been pushing humanity back across the galaxy, destroying everything in their path. How long until the jump drive is ready? Elena asked her chief engineer, Commander David Kim. The Korean-American officer was hunched over his console, his fingers dancing across the controls. The dimensional resonance chamber is still charging, David replied. This new drive system has never been tested in combat conditions. We're literally making history here, Captain. Elena nodded grimly. The Eternal Vigil was humanity's last hope, equipped with experimental technology that could potentially turn the tide of war. The ship's jump drive didn't just move through normal space, but could supposedly access parallel dimensions. If it worked, they could strike at the Korthic from directions the aliens couldn't predict or defend against. Another explosion shook the ship, this one closer than before. Elena's communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, called out from her station. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Stone at Earth Command. The main screen flickered to life, showing the weathered face of Admiral Marcus Stone. His gray hair was disheveled, and his blue eyes held a mixture of hope and desperation. Behind him, Elena could see the chaos of Earth's military headquarters. Elena, what's your status? Marcus asked, his voice crackling through the interference. We're holding position in the nebula, but barely, Elena replied. The Korthic found us faster than expected. They're adapting to our tactics. Marcus leaned forward, his expression grave. The situation back home is deteriorating rapidly. We've lost the Centauri colonies, and the Korthic are pushing toward the Sol system. If your mission fails, humanity has maybe 6 months before extinction. Elena felt the weight of those words. The Eternal Vigil carried more than just advanced weapons and shields. It represented humanity's refusal to surrender, their determination to fight against impossible odds. The crew of 200 had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not return. Understood, Admiral, Elena said. We won't let you down. The transmission ended just as the ship shuddered from another direct hit. Elena turned to her weapons officer, Major Patricia Williams. The former Marine had insisted on joining the mission, claiming that someone needed to make sure the weapons actually worked when needed. Return fire, Elena ordered. All batteries. The Eternal Vigil's advanced plasma cannons erupted in brilliant blue streams. The experimental weapons were more powerful than anything humanity had built before, but they were still outnumbered. Several Korthic ships took hits, their shields flaring, but they kept coming. Captain, David called out, his voice filled with excitement. The dimensional drive is reaching critical resonance. We can attempt a jump in 30 seconds. Elena watched as more Korthic ships emerged from the nebula's swirling gases. Their reinforcements had arrived, bringing the total enemy count to over 30 vessels. The aliens seemed to know that the Eternal Vigil was different, special. They wanted to destroy it before it could become a threat. All hands, prepare for dimensional jump, Elena announced over the ship's intercom. This is uncharted territory, people. We're about to make the impossible possible. The bridge crew strapped themselves into their seats as the ship's experimental drive began to hum with increasing intensity. Elena could feel the vibration in her bones, a sensation unlike anything from conventional faster-than-light travel. The air itself seemed to shimmer around them. Dimensional field at 90%, David reported. 95%. Full power achieved. Elena took a deep breath. Engage the dimensional jump drive. The universe exploded into colors that had no names. Elena felt her consciousness stretch across multiple realities simultaneously. She could see the Titan Nebula from 1,000 different angles, witness battles that might have been, could have been, or never were. Time became meaningless as past, present, and future merged into a single moment of infinite possibility. Then everything went dark. 10 years later, Admiral Marcus Stone stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching Earth's pale blue surface through the reinforced windows. At 65, he had aged more in the past decade than in the previous 20 years. The constant stress of fighting a losing war had taken its toll on everyone. Sir, his aide, Colonel Jennifer Nash, approached, with a tablet in her hands. The latest reports from the outer colonies. Marcus took the tablet and scanned the information. More bad news. The Korvik had taken 3 more systems in the past month. Humanity's territory had shrunk to just 12 star systems, and the aliens showed no signs of slowing their advance. How many ships do we have left? Marcus asked quietly. 47 operational vessels, Jennifer replied. Most are damaged and need extensive repairs. Our shipyards are working around the clock, but we can't build new ships fast enough to replace our losses. Marcus nodded slowly. The mathematics of their situation were simple and brutal. The Korvik Empire controlled over 200 star systems and had thousands of warships. Humanity had been lucky to survive this long, but luck was running out. Sir, the station's communication officer called out. We're receiving a priority transmission from the defense perimeter. Marcus and Jennifer hurried to the command center. The main screen showed Captain Lisa Rodriguez of the UES Defiant, one of their few remaining heavy cruisers. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her brown eyes held the exhaustion of someone who had seen too much combat. Admiral, Lisa said, we've detected a massive Korvik fleet approaching the Sol system. Over 300 ships, including their new super dreadnoughts. They'll be here in 72 hours. Marcus felt his heart sink. This was it, the final battle. The Korvik had decided to end the war once and for all. How long can we hold them? Lisa's expression was grim. With our current forces? Maybe 6 hours if we're lucky. They're bringing everything they have. Marcus was about to respond when alarms began blaring throughout the station. The communication officer looked up from his console with confusion written across his face. Sir, I'm detecting an emergency transmission on an old military frequency. The encryption is 10 years out of date. Put it through, Marcus ordered. Asterisk. Static filled the command center speakers for several seconds. Then a voice came through, clear and strong, that made Marcus's blood run cold. Luna Station, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Eternal Vigil, requesting immediate clearance to dock. We have returned from our mission and are ready to engage the enemy. The command center fell silent. Marcus stared at the speakers in disbelief. Jennifer dropped her tablet, and it clattered on the floor. The communication officer's mouth hung open. That's impossible, Jennifer whispered. The Eternal Vigil was destroyed 10 years ago. Marcus found his voice. Elena, is that really you? Hello, Marcus, came the reply. Yes, it's me. I know this. It's hard to believe, but we've been gone for 10 years from your perspective. For us, it's been much longer. We've learned things that will help humanity survive what's coming. Marcus felt tears forming in his eyes. Elena had been like a daughter. To him, one of the most promising officers he had ever commanded. Her loss had been devastating, not just strategically but personally. "Where are you now?" Marcus asked. "We're approaching the asteroid belt. You should be able to see us on your long-range sensors in about 30 minutes. Marcus, I need you to know that we're different now. The ship is different. We've become something more than we were when we left." Marcus looked at his sensor operator, who was frantically working at his console. The young man looked up and shook his head. "I'm not detecting anything unusual on our sensors, sir." "Keep scanning," Marcus ordered. He turned back to the communication system. "Elena, we need to debrief you immediately. The Korthik are launching their final assault on Earth. We have less than 3 days." "I know," Elena replied. "We've been monitoring your communications since we returned to this dimension. The Korthik think they're about to win, but they're wrong. Humanity's real war is just beginning." Asterisk Ghost signals the impossible return DR. Sarah Chun stood in the medical bay of Luna Station, reviewing the most puzzling readings she had ever encountered. As the station's chief medical officer, she had seen her share of unusual cases, but nothing had prepared her for this. The bioscanner. Results she was looking at should have been impossible. "Run the tests again," she told her assistant, Dr. Michael Torres. "The readings have to be wrong." Michael, a young doctor with barely 5 years of experience, looked up from his console. "I've run them 6 times, Dr. Chun. The results are consistent. According to these scans, the crew of the Eternal Vigil shows cellular modifications that shouldn't exist in human biology." Sarah studied the data on her screen. The crew members they had scanned showed enhanced muscle density, improved neural pathways, and bone structures that were 30% stronger than normal humans. Even more disturbing, their DNA showed markers that didn't match any known human. Genetic patterns. "Dr. Chun," Michael said quietly, "what if they're not entirely human anymore?" Before Sarah could respond, the medical bay doors opened. Admiral Marcus Stone entered, followed by Captain Elena Vasquez. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Elena looked exactly as she had 10 years ago, not a day older. Her black hair was still shoulder length, her green eyes still bright and alert. She wore the same style of uniform, but something about her presence felt different. "Dr. Chun," Marcus said, "I need you to conduct a full medical examination of Captain Vasquez and her crew." Elena stepped forward and extended her hand. When Sarah shook it, she noticed that Elena's grip was unusually strong, and her skin felt slightly cooler than normal human temperature. "Doctor," Elena said, "I understand your confusion. The changes to my crew and myself are significant, but we're still human at our core. We've just become something more." Sarah led Elena to an examination table. As she began her scans, she couldn't help but ask, "Captain, where have you been for the past 10 years?" Elena looked out the medical bay window at the stars beyond. "We've been in a place between dimensions, Doctor. A realm where the laws of physics work differently. We encountered beings there who helped us understand what humanity is truly capable of becoming." The medical scanner beeped as it completed its analysis. Sarah looked at the results and felt her heart race. Elena's cellular structure showed modifications that seemed to be ongoing. Her DNA was actively rewriting itself, becoming something that was recognizably human but enhanced beyond normal limitations. "Captain," Sarah said carefully, "you're evolving. Your entire crew is undergoing some kind of guided transformation." Elena nodded. "The beings we encountered call themselves the Watchers. They've been observing our galaxy for millions of years, waiting for a species to emerge that could serve as guardians against threats from other dimensions. They believe humanity has that potential." Marcus, who had been listening intently, stepped forward. "What kind of threats?" The Korthik are just the beginning, Elena replied. They're not originally from our dimension. They're refugees fleeing from something far worse. The Watchers showed us what's coming, Marcus. Forces that could destroy not just our galaxy, but entire dimensional barriers. Sarah continued her examination, noting that Elena's brain showed neural activity patterns that were far more complex than normal human brain function. Captain, how do you feel? Are you still? You? Elena smiled, and for a moment, Sarah saw the woman she had known 10 years ago. I'm still me, Doctor. I still care about protecting humanity, but I can now see things from perspectives that were impossible before. I can understand enemy tactics before they're even formed. I can feel the dimensional currents that flow between realities. The medical bay doors opened again, and Commander David Kim entered. Sarah immediately noticed that he also looked unchanged by the passage of time. His Korean features were exactly as she remembered, but his eyes held depths that seemed to contain vast knowledge. Captain, David said, the ship's modifications are complete. We're ready to demonstrate our new capabilities to Admiral Stone. Marcus looked between Elena and David. What modifications? Elena stood up from the examination table. The Eternal Vigil isn't just a warship anymore, Marcus. It's become a living entity that exists partially in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Watchers helped us merge human technology with materials and energy sources from parallel realities. Sarah watched as Elena's appearance began to change. Subtly, her skin took on a faint luminescence, and her eyes seemed to shimmer with inner light. The transformation isn't just biological, Elena continued. We've learned to exist in quantum superposition, to be in multiple places at once, to manipulate matter at the molecular level. That's impossible, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. David stepped forward. Admiral, would you like to see the ship? I think it would help you understand what we've become. Marcus nodded, and they made their way to the station's main hangar bay. Through the massive windows, Sarah could see the Eternal Vigil docked at the station's primary berth. The ship looked nothing like the vessel that had disappeared 10 years ago. The hull was no longer the standard gray metal of human ships. Instead, it seemed to be made of a material that shifted between states, sometimes appearing solid, sometimes translucent. Lines of energy ran along its surface like veins, pulsing with colors that existed at the edge of human perception. The ship's shape itself seemed to change depending on the angle from which it was viewed. My God, Marcus whispered. What is it? It's still the Eternal Vigil, Elena replied. But it's also become something that can exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously. When we engage the enemy, we can attack from angles they can't perceive, or defend against. Sarah watched as crew members from the Eternal Vigil moved about the hangar bay. Each one showed the same signs of enhancement that Elena displayed. They moved with fluid grace, their eyes held the same deep intelligence, and they seemed to communicate with each other without speaking. Captain, Sarah said, your crew, they're all like you now? All 200 of us, Elena confirmed. The transformation was voluntary. The Watchers offered us a choice. We could return to our original dimension unchanged, or we could accept enhancement and become something capable of protecting humanity from threats they can't even imagine. Marcus turned to face Elena directly. And you chose to become something beyond human? We chose to become what humanity needs us to be, Elena replied. The Korthik invasion fleet that's approaching Earth consists of 300 ships. With our original technology, you're right that they would defeat you easily. But with what we've become, 300 ships are just the beginning of what we can face. Sarah checked her scanner one more time. The readings showed that Elena's transformation was accelerating. Whatever process had begun in that other dimension was continuing, changing her into something that was human in spirit, but beyond human in capability. There's something else, Elena said, her voice taking on harmonics that seemed to resonate in Sarah's bones. The Watchers warned us that the Korthik are fleeing from entities called the Devourers. These beings consume entire dimensional matrices, leaving nothing but void behind them. They're approximately 50 years away from reaching our galaxy. Marcus sat down heavily in a nearby chair. So even if we defeat the Korthik, we face something far worse, Elena finished. But that's why we're here. The Watchers chose humanity because they saw in us something they hadn't seen in any other species. We don't just fight to survive. We fight to protect others, even when it costs us everything. Sarah looked out at the eternal vigil again. The ship seemed to pulse with life, as if it were breathing. Captain, what happens to the rest of humanity? Do we all have to become like you? Elena's expression grew thoughtful. That's humanity's choice to make. We can share our enhancements with others, but only with their consent. The Watchers made it clear that forced evolution leads to corruption. Humanity must choose its own path. Marcus stood up, his military bearing returning. How long do we have before the Korthik arrive? 68 hours, Elena replied. But Marcus, this battle won't be like anything you've seen before. The eternal vigil will demonstrate capabilities that will change how every species in that galaxy views humanity. Sarah watched as Elena's crew continued their preparations. These beings who had once been human were now something else, something that existed on the edge between dimensions. They were still recognizably human in their dedication to protecting Earth, but they had become the guardians that humanity needed, against threats from beyond reality itself. Doctor, Elena said, turning back to Sarah, I want you to monitor our crew during the battle. Document everything. Humanity will need to understand what we've become and what they might choose to become in the future. Sarah nodded, knowing that she was about to witness something that would change the course of human history forever.